Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the President of the United States.
I hated Bush. Bush, Cheney, John Ashcroft, Donna Rumsfeld.
Freedom fries and freedom toast.
Condoleezza Rice.
Halliburton.
Trent Lott.
Anti-Flag and Green Day. Tom DeLay.
Khakis and their blue blazers.
Tony Blair.
WMDs.
No good.
American Idol.
Phony fucking wars by phony fucking guys.
Scrubs.
The Bush era to us was like the Dark Ages. It was a barbarian landscape of fat Americans spewing their poisonous imperialist culture across the globe.
We had to, like, take all of it in, and they wanted us to, like, at the same time, like, march in line and bow down next to, like, the flag and pledge allegiance every morning, like, pray to the God of, like, the stars and stripes.
As I got older, I thought, fuck that, I'm gonna do something about it. I'm gonna say something about it. And I had lots of things to say, but I didn't quite know where to say them other than my school notebooks.
Grew up in a little cul-de-sac in the suburbs, DC, and met Chuck Angus when we were about 3 years old. And it was, skateboarding.
We went outside and we skateboarded. Everyone's like, oh yeah, the X Games are on, you know, and yeah, man, and they're with their backwards hats playing Tony Hawk, you know, and crushing Mountain Dews. But fuck that, we don't need caffeine, we don't need video games, we're gonna skateboard, we're gonna hit the fucking pavement.
We were scooping gelato, because I remember we didn't have sprinkles or, stupid shit that you put in ice cream, like gummy worms, like they do at Cold Stone. They'd come in, they say, my kid, he wants sprinkles on his ice cream. And you go, first of all, it's gelato, and second of all, you want sprinkles? You want gummy worms? Go to fucking Cold Stone. Fuck you.
And so we'd start skating to and from work, and we started talking about politics. We started talking to all these people that were coming in. We look at we'd like sketch on the back of their cars, and we look at their bumper stickers, and we would see like Bush, Cheney, and support the troops and whatever this bullshit was, and we're like, fuck that, I mean, I knew some guys who were in the war, and they were all right, because, they were hardworking guys, and that wasn't their fault.
Well, I was getting picked on at school, as per usual, when a new kid, I think he was a new kid, Chuck Angus, a really beefy character, who at first, I saw him in the halls and he seemed rather intimidating. I thought here's a lunkhead jock who's gonna bust my britches.
I'm walking to school one day and these preppy kids, they're fucking throwing a bag around. I'm like, who the fuck throws bags around at fucking school? Like, what the fuck are they doing? And like, there's this little fucking guy in the middle of it, like with weird fucking hair. I don't know what the fuck he's up to, but I realized they're like playing keep away with his bag. I was like, what the fuck, like, I don't know what the fuck old these people are, what they thought they were. They're wearing their fucking like blazers and shit and acting like they're fucking adults, but they were clearly just acting like fucking children, like the children that they fucking were. But then like shit started spilling out of the fucking bag, and I saw a copy of 1984. So, oh.
He stepped in on my behalf, and he told him to cut the crap. And I said, is that a Clash reference? And he said, yes. And he said to me, are you reading 1984? And I said, rereading it.
Later though, at the end of the school day, I saw like, oh, this guy's got a fucking skateboard. And I was like, alright, hey yo, you should come and skate with me and my friend Johnny. And like, so he came and he skated with us, man. When Jackson and Johnny met for the first time, man, you knew something was gonna happen.
When I met Johnny, I think that's when Organ Donor really began to ferment.
Jackson had a lot of really interesting things to say, and always had a very interesting way of saying it. I knew from the second I heard him speak that if he sang at all like he spoke, that he should definitely be the singer. We would just, spend hours talking about Iraq and Afghanistan, North Korea, North Carolina, South Virginia,
Johnny was sharp as a tack. He was, always on the attack, if you will. I wanted to call him Johnny Tack, but he didn't like that. He said he reminded him of his father, who was, tackle and fishing. He was a big fisher, an ice fisher. I don't know where he did that.
We would have serious political discussions. And after a while, it just made sense that we had to set this to music.
There was a real creative chemistry between Johnny and I, and we hit it off right away. And we knew that something was going to happen, that we had to form a band. Because as I said, I had things to say. And I thought that Johnny could really be the rock upon which I could build my church of dissent.
So we started practicing. There was a drum set in Jackson's basement. He had an amp and a guitar. And we started playing for a little while and thought maybe we could use a bass player. And we didn't find just any bass player. We found Howard the Duck.
Jackson called me and he wanted to start a band, and we were going to talk about like war and like it was going to be like a punk rock statement about like what was happening in the world, And he said we're going to call it Organ Donor.
Dismembered Bodies was a shocking name. It was to call your attention to the horrors of war. Organ Donor. Picture images of guts spilling out and cadavers and, body bags.
Punk rock in 2003, 2004 was bullshit. You had all these bullshit bands like Sugar Cult and fucking Good Charlotte, bunch of fucking sellouts. I mean, we played at the same spot as Good Charlotte. We shared some bills with them when we were just starting out, and they were just taking off, and they were making this bullshit like quasi-Christian punk rock music. And it was bullshit.
We wanted to make punk rock for punk rockers, not, punk for like suburban mom and dads, for like soccer moms and like kids and like car seats.
Our first practice with Howard, I remember before Howard showed up, Jackson said, you're gonna love this bass player. He's unstoppable. And I didn't know that he literally meant that Howard the Duck would not stop playing bass after the song would end. I mean, I asked, like, Howard, what's up? Why can't you stop? And he said physically he was incapable of stopping.
Growing up, they were always like trying to get us to like sit down or like kneel down or like bow down. They're really holding us back all the time. And so like I was like no, and I kind of broke out of that and I just kept going and I just wanted to like move forward, and keep progressing, and keep going in like a direction so I just didn't want to stop. So when like I picked up a bass, it was like movement, it was like going forward.
And I was the only guy who had a driver's license. So, and I had a car. Like, I had actually like scraped together all that fucking money from that ice cream job, and I had it, and I bought a car. I bought some used car, and but it got down the street. Like, it worked. Like, I could open the door, it would go down the street, I could get through, and we could fit an amp, we could fit another amp, we could fit most of a drum set.
This part of the trap kit, we rarely took on the road with us. I mean, I just had to bring my own cymbals because, we had to show that we were Organ Donor. And these cymbals, they sound great. I mean, that's the Organ Donor sound. Chuck said I'm going to get you guys some shows. We had never played out before, so it seemed like it could be fun. And we arrived at our first show, and it was run by this fellow named Gordon Levitt. Where to start? Where to start with Gordon Levitt?
Really, that we owe our start to that weird fucker.
Gordon Levitt had a hot tub in his house. And he always wanted us to get in the hot tub. I don't think he wanted to get in the hot tub with us, but for some reason that made it even creepier.
As far as I can recall, our first performance was there, and it was kind of a dingy hole, but it was real. It was raw. It was a suburban basement. That's the truth.
So, this is the illustrious basement where Organ Donor got this start. Now, this kid, Chuck Angus, he comes to me and he says, hey, you know, he lived down the street, he lived with his stepmother or something, I don't know. He says, my friends, they got this band, they want to play a show in your basement. I said, I don't even know you, much less your friends want to come over, you want to play, and it was a mess. It's a mess now. There was a period where it wasn't so much of a mess, now it's a mess again. I said, well, I don't know, I mean, look at this place. It was a different kind of mess. And he said, no, you better let us play a show here. I'm like, oh, this kid. But I liked him. He had guts, you know. He was saying, look, we'll play a show, you know. Okay. There was a space, you know, we cleared it out, you know, we set up a band over here in this corner over here, we had all this power sources and we plugged them in over there. We had amplifiers and a drum set. And I thought it wouldn't be so bad, you know. We could we could have all the kids from all the neighborhood. We would get them off the streets and we'd get them doing something positive. Because, you know, it was that new millennium. You know, they were on the internet. They were, I don't even know specifically why, you know, what they were watching videos, or they were playing video games with people in China or something. I'm not really sure. Because, I mean, the time zones, I don't really know how that works. But they were doing it. And I thought, no, you know, why don't they come? They can listen to some rock and roll music. I'm assuming this is what they were playing. They can come together, you know, and it would be all right. But, okay. So they're going to play a show here. And it was all right. I mean, I thought it'd be a good deal, you know, for me and my wife. We could bring in some extra cash flow. We charge a couple of dollars at the door. And we can sell them some snacks. We can bring some sodas. We can sell them some hamburger sandwiches. They'll feel great about them. They'll fill up their bellies. They'll feel good. They can watch music. And it was great. We had the whole thing. We had them set up. They had all the instruments. There was 3 of them. I thought that's impressive. 3 of you were gonna put together a whole show. I like it. And then they started playing.
We hit those opening notes. You know, we played "What You Gonna Do About It." It was the first song we opened with.
It was other kids back here, all the way to this other brick wall.
Boys.
Yeah. It was like, you know, what your parents, you know, wouldn't like.
I never really understood why so many people came to their shows.
I mean, I wanted to be involved. Somehow. I mean, there was this band.
They were fucking intense.
Yeah. That's kind of, but I feel like maybe, you know, Organ Donor was like the first band to really be like that, you know?
Jackson was like, I'm gonna play, like, whatever, like, there were no boundaries, like, you know, 6 strings was like all he needed. You just, like...
Something was happening. Right here. Right now. And I thought, what can I do to help, you know, proliferate this happening. This happening. Something was happening.
Yeah, everyone's going crazy.
I don't even know what noise was preventing me from hearing the other noises.
Like, it's kind of violent.
Very violent.
Energy, you know, because that's what it was about. It was like waking everybody up.
And I thought, why not start to write a zine? He said he was going to write a zine about Organ Donor. I still don't think he's ever published it, but maybe that was the most punk thing he could have done.
The kids, you know, the disenfranchised, the youth, the bored suburban youth, you know, I think they immediately connected with what we were saying. We were probably the first people that they ever heard that were speaking directly to them. You know, we had a song called "No One for Us." It was about how we felt alienated, that we had no one for us, no one that, you know, that spoke our language, no one that cared about our opinions. You know, I think there were so many people at that time, so many kids in the Bush era, who were looking at their elders and going, you know, fuck this isn't right. I grew up, you were telling me about right and wrong, but now you grow up and you're lying on TV and, you know, sacrificing innocent lives, you know, for nothing. And, you know, I think the kids really connected with someone telling them the plain facts in their own language. It was like a shock to the system.
Like a cold shower.
Yeah. It blazed, it was like letters shot out, into the eyes of the assembled, that said, "This is the truth."
I remember at one point hearing some other kids, though, chanting along with the music, saying that Dick Cheney was the president, which I understood to be not true because I paid attention to the news. After practice one day, like, Jackson comes to me and he says, he wrote a song. The first song's called Dick Cheney. I thought, okay. So we put it in the tape deck in my car. We sat in my car and we listened to it. And you hear this, the guitar comes in, it's boom. This is it.
Everyone play. Get ready to play, Howard.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Say it. Just say it. In the capital of our country, just say it. Dick Cheney kills innocent children. You will not find anything else in 2003. You look back, there was nobody else doing something like that. And you had Howard behind the bass, and he kept going. You would not stop playing. You would play that bass, no matter how many fucking cops showed up at those shows, man.
All you care about is money. All you care about is yourself. All you care about is getting a good on paper. So I'm gonna put you on the shelf.
Fucking Johnny's at the drums, like he did not fucking stop. He was like a fucking machine gun. He was a louder machine gun than all the fucking machine guns we had going in Iraq. That band was fucking intense. That was really what was happening. That was actually punk rock, none of that fucking MTV bullshit.
I stand behind all of our lyrics. Dick Cheney is the president. That's just as true today as it was then.
I think the song Dick Cheney is that Dick Cheney kills innocent children. It's it's an arresting image. It's an old man, horrid old man killing an innocent child. Lord knows how, but it's such evocative language. It forces you to picture that. What would it look like, for this man that really, to us, personified everything that was wrong with America, to murder an innocent child in cold blood. And I think that there's something very profound about that as provocation. And that's really what Organ Donor worked in. They were artists in provocation. And I think Dick Cheney is probably a sterling example of that. The Organ Donor was all about breaking down taboos, shoving it in your face. And a lot of us, we hadn't had it, shoved in our face like that before. The infamous Organ Donor demo tape called Civil Disobedience, because that's what we were all about. It was, the very process of recording the tape was revolutionary in a sense, because we eschewed all conventional methods of recording and took a drastically DIY approach. My parents had a boombox, a tape player with two decks from the 80s. And we would lay down the bass, drum, and guitar tracks playing simultaneously, and we would record it on the tape in that tape player. And then we took another tape player, and we put the tape with the instrumental tracks into the other tape player, and we set it up facing the first tape player. We put a new tape in that one, and then we'd all stand back and we'd shout. It was a sort of, live in the studio overdub system that, lent the recordings a raw, vicious quality, known as the signature Organ Donor method. Other bands attempted to imitate it, but they never quite learned our secret, which was passion. Yeah. You ruined my life 'cause you're a Nazi bitch. Nazi bitch! I don't care, I'm Nazi bitch. Nazi bitch! Yeah. Nazi bitch! Nazi bitch! I'm in despair! You're a Nazi bitch! Nazi bitch!
I can't take it anymore. Do my life upon earth.
DIY. We went to Office Depot and we bought these huge stacks of like 200 blank CDs. And we got the rebate, so we basically got them for free. Like, we only really paid about $5 for 200 CDs. And, you know, I don't even remember whose $5 it was, but, you know, we made it back in full. We burned every single CD ourselves on one computer, over and over again, just all night, staying up, drinking Mountain Dew.
The kids started, like, listening, they were responding to the music because we were putting it out, and they were taking it, and they were, like, interpreting it and saying, like, I should play in a band too. And you know, we only had, so they started buying instruments, you know, and like, or, you know, taking things and like plugging things in and like putting things together, and like, it was like a band, it was like a scene, it was like bands, multiple bands were coming together and like gonna make music, you know, and like make, you know, not even make music, but make like statements about music and about politics and about like, about punk rock and about like war and about like genocide, about like Rwanda.
Once we cut that civil disobedience demo, you know, that was the kicking off point. After that, there were more shows, more bands, more demos, more kids, more scene.
It was just an escape. Like, my parents are on my back telling me to clean my room. And I could, you know, just organ donor.
I think there was a real, you know, direct concentration of positive energy at the hometown shows. Feel like a ball of tension. You know, just want to scream or, you know, take a shit.
And they would come in here and weekend after weekend, Saturdays, Fridays, Sundays, and they would come in and they would play shows, and it wasn't even just organ donor, which, you know, was a name I never personally understood, but it wouldn't just be organ donor, it would be the raid on victims and the rip outs and hands on the hood, which, yeah, I was a little wary of at first because it sounded perhaps like they might be Klansmen, and I didn't want them in my house because this neighborhood, it's full of, it's diverse, is what I'm supposed to say.
I think it was a show that we played at the Hamburger House with, I think it was Hands on the Hood and the Rip Outs, where I knew that this was bigger than us. This was bigger than we ever could have imagined it. This was something huge.
The show was brilliant. Every band was in top form. And that's when I truly started to feel like something's happening. The kids are coming together and are really taking a stand. I literally took a stand. I stood on top of a chair and the chair broke. And then somebody brought me a floor tom. I stood on top of that and it broke immediately because it's a ridiculous thing to stand on. But that was what organ donor was about. It was about, you know, the energy was just about the dedication. It was about stand on the ridiculous thing even if it's going to break. Kids from all over were messaging us on MySpace and asking, you know, would we play? You know, if they were touring, you know, coming through Washington D.C., could they play with us? You know, would we come and play at their, you know, VFW halls and, you know, basements and clubs? And it was madness, really. You know, we went to Boston and, you know, and played with Face Fight. You know, we played with the Mats.
Well, yeah, organ donor, they were good. You know, they came through the cities a few times there. They were good. They were, you know, nice kids. Put on a good show. Music was real different.
The shows that we played when we were on tour was, you know, it was madness. It was all, you know, in Chuck's car, and it was you know, sleeping in the car and, you know, sweating and not sweating.
This was also before smart tags, so we actually, or easy passes as they're called now, and we actually had socks full of change. So much change just in these socks, and they doubled as, you know, weapons in case some, you know, rednecks in, you know, other parts of the country didn't like what we were saying. You know, not only did they pay our tolls, but we also paid our dues on the streets. You know, like, we had to fight sometimes. We had to fight.
They just wanted to get violent, and it was, you know, like, cause sometimes like a cop would show up or something, and it would be like, you know, fuck you, you know, because it was like a symbol, you know. But sometimes there were other, like, sometimes they would like hurt each other, and the shows would get really violent. But we weren't like, you know, And it was like, we shouldn't be destroying each other, you know, but at the same time, it felt really good.
We were just kids fucking around, you know. We wanted to say, we wanted to shock, you know, to piss in your face, to piss on our own face, you know. The face. It was, you know, in the 60s, they were fighting against the man. You know, in the Bush era, I always felt that we were fighting against the face.
Face fight, Donnie Donovan, vocals and guitar.
Sean Fitzpatrick, fucking bass.
Fucking Matt and Ryan.
He's a fucking drummer. He's a fucking drummer. And this is my girl, Megan McDermott.
Yeah.
She's a good girl. Yeah, we you know, we represent pretty hard for.
Yeah, represent O-Town, Orleans, Massachusetts. Born on Cape Cod. Born in Cape Cod Hospital. You're gonna fucking die in Cape Cod Hospital because it's a terrible fucking hospital.
Every kid that heard Organ Donor started a band.
Mick and I, we heard the Organ Donor tape, and we literally wore it out. You know, it was... my parents hated it, which I thought was just lovely, you know, it's just lovely. They said, turn that record off, and, well, I did, but I put it on again later.
I don't know, I went to this town and there was like this kid whose name was Handgun, and he like gave me this like, he like happened to work at a pizza place and was like punk as fuck, and it was sick, and then he gave me like he bought me pizza, and then I went to his house and he just had like their cassette.
I sat in my room and I listened to it over and over again, and I just, you know, every time a little bit more of the message sinks in, but, you know, it took me listening to it in my room over and over and over again to really get the core message of that song, which is, you know, Dick Cheney kills innocent children.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we played that tape a fucking lot though. Pissed my mom off. Pissed your stepmom off. She's the same person.
The influence of Organ Donor had really reinvigorated the scene in Islington and the greater London suburban area. Mick and I, you know, we were really inspired by Organ Donor to form our first band, Tony Blair's Bum.
And it's like I didn't become like fucking like coverted or whatever instantly, but then like I was just like, whenever I'd roll up somewhere, just be like, you guys into Organ Donor? And if they were, I'd just be like, that's so cool. And then like we'd fucking get drunk and just put on that cassette and just fucking go fucking buck, you know?
Yeah, there's not a lot of women involved in the hardcore scene at that time, and not really now, even ever. But to me, it was just about, you know, taking pictures of these bands that would, you know, skyrocket them in the local scene.
We did an anti-NAFTA song called Free Nightmare. You know, lyrics, free commerce, trading things around.
Free commerce, trading around, free dumb, real around. Oh, what can't you say? Man, I don't want to say. Oh, what can't you smell? Hey,
that was about Bush. You know, it was like, we smelled a rat. We had a song called Fascism A Go-Go.
fascism, fascism, the go-go, fascism, fascism, the go-go.
It was about the relationship between, you know, popular culture and social control.
So Fat Mike from NoFX, he sent me an email asking if Organ Donor wanted to contribute a song to the Rock Against Bush compilation on Fat Records. And we of course we wanted to. So we sent Dick Cheney, which we thought was, you know, the most appropriate and political of all of our songs, except maybe Nazi Bitch. And he sent us a letter back saying that it didn't really fit on the compilation. He said, you know, Dick Cheney isn't the president, guys. George W. Bush is the president. And I called bullshit on that. I said, you said, George W. Bush, not my president. He's not our president either. That's why we said Dick Cheney is the president.
They were trying to rock against Bush, but they were on like a label, you know? Like that money was being, like they were utilizing like resources that were being manufactured by like Halliburton.
I always thought they were, you know, cashing in on the aesthetic of protest. you know, bands with overblown names like Anti-Flag, you know. Maybe they had some integrity at some point, but, you know, by the time we were, you know, starting Organ Donor, Anti-Flag was dressing like Green Day. It was all white belts and red neckties and, you know, brothel creepers and eyeliner.
I would never say that Jackson and I ever split ideologically. It was purely musical. He wanted to do some more disco things.
There's real revolutionary potential. You know, and we had a song called Disco. That was my favorite Organ Donor song. I don't know if the other band members, you know, shared these sentiments, and I think it might have contributed to, you know, friction that led to the dissolution of the group.
I wanted to stay a punk. You know, I'm still a punk to this day.
I think Johnny and I were two huge personalities. We were like two huge helium balloons. And if you ever had to contain two massive helium balloons in the same small basement, I can tell you it's difficult.
And Howard... It pisses me off to talk about Howard sometimes. He started hanging out with that boy. And I don't mean that in any sort of sexual connotation. I'm talking about drugs. Heroin.
I was doing smack at the time, you know, I was selling smack, you know, so I could keep doing smack. That's how it works, you know. I was a punk drug kid, you know, I was fucked up kid, young. You know, I hang out at Organ Donor shows, you know, because that was real punk shit. You know, and I would hang out with my crew, roll with my crew. You know, people like Judy Jerome, you know, Abe, people like that, you know, and we were hanging at the Organ Donor shows. You know, you get free hamburgers, shit, you know.
First, he was just like sneaking out booze and like smoking some bud, you know, and like, you know, caffeine, like doing the do, and like, you know, pills from like mom's like, cabinet, you know, like some Xanax.
And we said, you know, we were gonna, you know, shoot up, you know, and it's like we try to, you know, like not really tell them that, like straight up, you know, up and out.
And then, you know, then it just went up, and we were like doing like heroin, you know, like a horse, you know, and it was like a drug, you know, and it was like a controlled substance because it like controlled us.
I don't want you to pay me as like corrupt influence, corrupting influence, but I was.
Judy, Marty, all those fuckers, man. I don't know. It's fucked up. They're getting fucked up.
Fucking Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Hard dude.
Yeah. Howard was hard. Guess he just, you know, stopped playing the bass. Finally. So usually you couldn't get him to stop playing the bass, and he started doing smack, and then he stopped.
I don't know. It's fucked up, you know? What getting fucked up how it will like fuck you up, like kind of for a long time.
Because we were all about like freedom and like democracy and like doing whatever we wanted to do, you know, and I was just like doing whatever I wanted, you know, and then but like Jackson was like you're making mistakes, and like Johnny was like, I don't want, it's not like a positive thing. And like I was doing it wrong, you know, it was bad.
It was a real tragedy. It's how revolutions have always been co-opted by the drugs that the CIA peddle to the youth of America to keep them anesthetized. And I feel so sad that Howard fell prey to that. And that was definitely a factor. He had so much potential. He might, to this day, be the best bass player I've ever heard. You know, and Johnny wanted to pursue other things. He had a certain vision. He's always had a certain vision.
I knew that just playing music wasn't enough. I wanted to really do something. I wanted to take it to the streets, you know, grassroots. So I started an organization called YMPC, Youth Movement for a Positive Change, or YUMC.
It was tough because I was there the whole time, and I was watching all this happen, and they're all kind of going in different directions, and it was, I had to respect all of it because, Jackson does what he wants to do, Johnny does what he wants to do, Howard thinks he knows what he's doing. Like, these are all people that are all headstrong. You gotta respect it. I had to respect it. That's the kind of person I am. I respect people who are headstrong, who know what they want to do. And unfortunately, this is pulling them all in 3 different directions. Suddenly, I don't know what happened. Sometime around the time Bush got reelected, things took a dive. I don't know. I mean, I voted for him. I was okay. He was back in office. That's what I wanted. People, I guess these children were into John Kerry. I never really followed that. I never got that impression from them. Bush, Kerry, they couldn't even vote. Why were they here?
When Bush got reelected, that was a blow.
Bush was reelected because like John Kerry was just like a different candidate.
People want to read into the fact that we broke up right when Bush got reelected, and this they take that to be some sort of failure. Fuck that. We didn't fail. We just gave up.
So fucking Organ Donor broke up around, I guess, right after the fucking re-election of
George
W.
Bush.
yeah.
Fucking W.
But we were on a fucking bender because the Sox had won the fucking series. Beat the fucking Yankees.
Go Sox!
2004.
Fucking went to the fucking series.
2004.
Kick fucking ass.
Johnny Damon, you'll always be a Red Sox to me, and never fucking Yankees.
Johnny fucking
Fuck the Yankees.
Johnny
fucking Damon. Cheers! Woo! After Organ Donor broke up, I still wanted to remain a positive force for change. And I mean, Jackson, we stayed friends. He was always an amazing guitar player, and he taught me how to play, enough chords that I wanted to sort of do a little more of a down to earth, earthy, all about just positive protest music.
It was very sad. It felt like the end of an era. Of course, later, our interests changed. Mick and I started reading books about astral projection. I think maybe he even communicated with Jackson Hole on the astral plane, and we started a new band, the Eon of Horus. But Tony Blair's band, that was the start of it all, and it's all because of Organ Donor and the taboos they shattered.
Don't listen to those motherfuckers in London, or LA, or Chicago, or New York, or any other city, because they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They were not there in DC in 2003 and 2004 when Organ Donor was headlining every goddamn basement show that was happening.
I think for punk rock as a whole, it was a real return to form. Me and Judy, we would talk on IM, talk about Organ Donor.
Yeah.
It's like, am I gonna see you at the Organ Donor show?
Be like, yeah, you're gonna see me at the Organ Donor show, or YEA, yeah. You are gonna see me at the Organ Donor show. This is all the letters of Organ Donor because you can't really
Abbreviate that.
Yeah.
I think that's what Organ Donor is really all about.
I won't say I was inspired. I mean, I wouldn't ever say I was inspired, because that's like, what is that? Inspired. I mean, I was definitely like, thought that shit was rad. And like me and my boys, like, if we were around like amps and shit, we would try to play that kind of shit, but fuck. I wouldn't say I was inspired. I was inspired in life, not in music, because I was never really good at music.
Fucking Organ Donor, they never dead. People say, am I responsible for bringing the band up? I say, I hope not. As I think Organ Donor was about, like personable freedom. In 10, 20 years, people will look back and the whole era will be, in a sense, defined by the sounds of Organ Donor. It was like a line in the sand. It was before, there was before organ donor, and then there was after organ donor. You know, even here in the UK, we felt the effects.
I never felt that way before until I saw organ donor. I'll be honest with you right now, Megan. That was the only time I ever thought that way about another man.
What organ donor was saying was so mind-blowing, I think, to everyone who heard it. So, you know, viciously, scathingly political, satirical, you know, clearly a cut above, you know, real incisive thinkers. And I think that, you know, had the Iraq War, you know, been stopped, I mean, of course it wasn't, but had it been stopped, I wouldn't be surprised if people would be saying that it was because of organ donor.
And it was 1 year. It was 2003 to 2004. It was a tiny year, but it was one of the biggest years. It ended right before that election happened. After that election, after that band broke up, everything fucking changed. DC was not the same again. We had bands up on stage. We had American Idiot. We had all these so-called punk rock, anti-war, fuck who knows what, Broadway show-stopping bullshit, calling itself something that it wasn't even close to being what organ donor actually was.
I don't know, I look back at the time and think, like, of all the kids who started all the other bands, you know, and maybe we did, like, make a difference, because maybe, like, one kid, or maybe, like, a couple kids just, like, they heard what we had to say and, like, changed some minds, and, like, you know, maybe in our own way, like, things moved, like, you know, like a new generation, like, had, like, some new ideas in their minds, you know, so it was, like, mission accomplished.
So it's sometimes difficult for me to get particular perspective on what it meant. But I like to think, you know, that organ donor were, you know, the figureheads, the theoreticians, and the foot soldiers of a movement that never quite happened, but was on the verge of, you know, bursting forth into American public consciousness and changing the political landscape forever. You know, in the 60s there was, you know, the civil rights movement, and there was, you know, May '68, student revolutions. You know, the 70s had, you know, punk rock and the Sex Pistols. And, the 80s had Rock Against Reagan. But our era, the Bush era, it had, you know, Fat Mike, Rock Against Bush, Vote for John Kerry, liberal bloated bullshit. And organ donor was about saying fuck that, about saying, you know, fuck you to corporations, fuck you to both political parties, fuck you to Bush and Cheney and all your phony wars.
Well, if you ask me, organ donor really started it all. It was the start of everything. The beginning. It started with organ donor, and if you ask me, I think it'll end with organ donor.
Organ donor, they were good kids. They, you know, I think they wanted to enact something positive. They were trying to do something nice for the fellow youths. You know, they were trying to do something good for the community. I don't really think they got the message across because it was entirely incomprehensible. And I'm not just saying that as an old person. I don't think any of those kids knew what was happening.
It's my
Okay, this is I'm a Mess. And I'm never truly happy. Keeps you under control. I'm a mess, and I'm never truly happy. Keeps you under control.
Gonna do socks, and then the X was gonna be emphasized, like edge. But then we went on that fucking bender, and then I already had these. These are permanent, and
These are fucking pissy, dude.
I usually wear gloves.